Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD1100 C# Programming Fundamentals class, I've been doing a series of video presentations based on the textbook that will be used for this class, that being Muroc C# 2015. The book has in it 26 chapters. I will be making one or more video presentations on each chapter. So far, I've gone through the first 2 chapters of the book, how to get started with Visual Studio and how to design a Windows Form application. So in the last chapter, we designed this application because that's the one shown in the book. In the chapter we're starting right now, Chapter 3, we'll learn how to code and test this. All right, and that'll be done, or basically finish up our introduction to Visual Studio. So let's think about this as we get started. All right, before I even go into this, what do we want to have happen? In the book, they show $225 being put in there. And then they show the discount percent being 10%. Well, let's just, again, yeah, I'm not, I mean, I know math, 225. So if that's how much we paid and we got a 10% discount, the discount would be multiplying that by 0.1. So we'd get a discount of $22.50. If we took our $225 and we subtracted from that $22.50, we'd get $202.50. And that's our final total. So we want to make sure that when we run this, if we put in here 225 and automatically the 10 will appear here, the 2250 will appear here, and the 20250 will appear there. And then if we click exit, boom, it'll all go away. Okay? All right. We may want to run this program and be able to put in more than one set of results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these 2 buttons. I'm going to click Lock Controls again to unlock them. I'm going to remove that. All right, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to come back in. This is not in the book, but I'm going to add another button in between these 2. And I'm going to call this button here Button Clear. And I want the text on here to be clear. And really what I'd rather have happen is, in fact, let's highlight everything again. Right mouse click and choose Lock Controls again. That locked it back up. So this is more than what they're showing in the book. All right. I just think it makes a little more sense to show it to you the way that I'm showing it to you, as opposed to the way that the author did. All right. Again, as mentioned previously, I can come in here, be a little anal. Move that down. That looks pretty good there. Move that down. That looks pretty good there. That looks pretty good. Now, we didn't have to do that. But now it looks a little bit nicer. So a little bit more, whatever you want to call it, symmetrical or whatever. But I want to click again on my form, go back to my cancel button. And when I hit escape, I don't want the program to end. I want it to clear. So I'm going to change that to button clear. All right. Good time to do a file, save all, run this. Again, it still is not operational, but it's looking pretty nice. So again, what we want to be able to do is put in 225 right here, click this button, have this say 10%, have this say 2250, have this say 20250. Then if we click clear, we want all those values to disappear, and we want our cursor to go back into here. And when we click exit, what we'll do is we'll ask the user, do you want to exit the program? And if she or he says yes, boom, we'll exit the program. All right? Okay. Now let's jump back into our textbook. So, how to code and test a form application. This is what I've already been telling you. So we're going to write code. When we write code, we'll also write some comments to explain what it is we're trying to do. You're going to see some terms in here that you're probably going to find confusing that are in the book here. We'll talk about object-oriented programming. We'll talk about class or classes, objects, instantiation, instance, property, method, event, member, etc. I already mentioned to you that C# is what's known as an event-driven programming language. What that means is it responds to events. All right, we'll look at some of the other stuff that's shown in here as well as we go on. Okay? All right. So again, here's where we are right now, but we just don't have the code to make that happen. So that's what we're going to start adding now. Now they talk about, let's talk about some terms. And what they show in the book here is just fine. What they show on screen here is just fine, but let's try to make it easier. So let's assume that I'm a developer and I'm constantly looking to add, to build neighborhoods. I know where I live right now in Lake St. Louis, Missouri. It's a very up-and-coming area. A lot of times when there's vacant land, somebody buys it up and puts a neighborhood up. So let's say that I'm going to do that. So I come across an area, and I'm just going to assume that that area has, let's say, 200 acres on it. And I've decided that in that 200 acres, I can put 100 homes. Each home will be on an acre. And then I'll have room for streets and for light, street lights, maybe a pool or whatever. But you get the idea. All right? And I decide that when I'm doing this and I'm creating these neighborhoods, or this neighborhood with these 100 houses, I have 5 house plans. Maybe 3 of the house plans are single-story ranches, and 2 of them are two-story two-story houses. And I decide that I'm going to set them up in a certain way. Well, each one of those 5 different house plans that I have, the 3 ranches and the 2 two-stories, are what are called classes. They're blueprints. And I make houses based off of the blueprints, just like you make objects based off of classes. So each object is also known as an instance of a class. And in fact, when you create an instance of a class or an object from a class, it's called class instantiation. So maybe I'm going to be just kind of boring, and I've got these 5 house plans, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is how I'm going to build them in the neighborhood. I'm going to put plan 1, then plan 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. And then I'm going to have another row with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've got 20 rows like this. Then I would have 100 house objects based off of 5 different house classes or blueprints. Each of these houses could have their own properties. In other words, each house could conceivably be a different color. Probably on the outside, a lot of them are going to be the same color. But I could decide that if I've got 2 houses that look identical to one another, maybe on the inside of one of them, I'm going to paint the whole thing white. And on the next one, I'm going to paint the whole thing maybe tan. So the properties of the house could include things like wall color. I could say that what's the difference between these three ranch styles? Maybe one of the ranch styles gives you the opportunity to have a 3-car garage, and the other two don't. All right? So you start to see with properties, it's kind of like with a human being. We've all got different first names and last names. We all have different heights and weights, different eye colors and hair colors, etc. Those are properties. As it says, they define the characteristics of an object. Then we have methods. That's what an object can do. All right, so what can a house do? Well, I don't know, the doors can open and close. The garage doors can open and close. All right. It's easier to think of these in terms of a human being, because when you think of a human being, for example, we all eat, we all drink, we all sleep. But we sleep different amounts, we eat different things, we drink different things, etc. Then you've got events. Events are signals sent by an object saying something has happened and we want to respond to it. Now that you should actually understand, because as an example, when we put 225 here and we click calculate, we want the system to respond to that input event that we put in there. Properties, methods, and events are called members of an object. You can instantiate 2 or more objects of the same class, but the values can be assigned to one another. All right? Perhaps you know, for example, of twins. You have 2 people who are twins. All right? And let's say that they're twins and one is a male and one is a female. Well, they won't have the same everything. If nothing else, they'll have a gender property, and for one it'll be M, for one it'll be F. All right? Their heights probably would be different. Their weights probably would be different, etc. It says when you use the Form Designer, Visual Studio automatically generates a lot of code for you. All right, when you add a control to the form, code gets added for you. When you move a control around, code gets added for you. Usually you don't have to worry about this. All right. Visual Studio has a nice feature that's called Intellisense. So as you start typing in certain things, Visual Studio will try to guess what comes next to make your life a little easier. It looks like this. If you don't like it, you literally can turn it off. But we'll be using it, and we'll get into it in a little bit. All right? So this is how we'll refer to something. The name of an object, like text total, dot, the name of a property, like text, equals, and a value. This says assign a value, the string 10, to the control called txt total, assign that to its text property. Again, you'll see this more and more as we go through it. All right? We'll have methods like a focus method, which means that we want to be able to move the cursor someplace. Close, if we want to close a form. All right? Okay. How to enter member names when working in the code editor. Well, you're going to see these in just a minute. We're going to start putting in code. All right? Let's take a look at the example that the author gives here. So, here is my exit button, okay? If I double click on this exit button, it brings up button exit. You'll notice that, and I can type in, I think it's wrong in the book, I think it's me.close, but maybe it is this. Okay, is that a little T? Okay, now it's much easier to show you what this does than it is to explain it. I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run the program again. And now, for the first time, because we added this code right here, notice what happens when I click the exit button. All right? The program stops running. That's a little extreme. What if I clicked the exit button and didn't mean to? Doesn't matter. The program still ends. Well, I'm going to show you something. This is not in the book yet, but I'm going to leave that line in there, but I'm going to put in some of my own code. If messagebox.show exit program now. And don't worry, we're going to go over what all of this means. Wrong. All right, I'm going to rerun this program literally in a matter of seconds. All right, I'm just about out of time. Okay, in fact, I will run it as we start the next part of our lesson. Let me do a file save, and I'll be back with the next portion of this momentarily.